Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Sainato. I'm a journalist, and you can find my articles in The Observer, Counterpunch, The Hill, Truth Out, and I've been published in a lot of other different publications as well. Tonight we have a special Real Progressives interview. Tonight we have, I'm sure everyone knows, Tim Black. Thank you, Tim, for taking the time out of your weekend to come on.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for giving me the invitation and sharing me with your audience, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. It's my pleasure. So, I'm sure some people watching, might be seeing some of what's been going on social media, particularly Twitter, between yourself, Nico, H.A. Goodman, and some of the people with the Young Turks. Can you start off by just giving us a quick rundown of how this all started?
Okay, well, I think it began this way. It's kind of weird how it started. Let me back up just a little bit and say last year around September, well, actually earlier than that, when Bernie was about to hit New York, he was the Young Turks for a long time. They were supporting Bernie Sanders. At least it looked that way. I think it was, well, I'll leave that alone about what I think, why they did it. But around New York, that's when the tide kind of turned for the Young Turks, and they decided, particularly like Cenk Uygur, that we needed to start, falling in line with Hillary Clinton and supporting that. About that time, all the way up during the primaries, Michael, I had been a very heavy advocate of Bernie Sanders. If you knew me then, if you're fans, if your supporters or viewers knew, if you were a Bernie supporter, you knew who Tim Black was. Because every election night, I was rallying the troops, and I was a diehard in it, Bernie or bust all the way. So when Cenk and TYT started with their we need to fall in line stuff and Bernie needs to drop out, I made a video about that. I made a video about it, and I called Cenk a sellout. And it got some legs. It got popular. It was on Facebook, was a number of places. Around shortly after that, I did a Tim Canova-thon where I brought on numbers of progressives, man. I had a lot of people. I had, of course, Tim Canova. I had Jordan Sheridan. I'm thinking about Jared Beck from the DNC lawsuit. A lot of people. Lee Camp. I had a lot of great people on the show, man. It was a great time, and we were trying to get awareness out for Tim Canova. So, move forward about a month later, there was some talk that no sellout video was still going around, Michael, and it, for whatever reason, I was getting contacted by people on Facebook saying that Jordan Sheridan had some things to say about me on Facebook on a live stream, and I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, he was talking about you." And they said Cenk also did a video on live stream on Facebook, and he was talking about you, but he wouldn't say your name. He just said there's this guy on Facebook. I don't know who he is, and he's calling me a sellout and whatever. So I didn't make a video, Michael. What I did was I contacted Jordan because he'd just been on my show a month or two earlier, and I said, "Jordan, what's up, man? What's going on?" So he said, "Hey, man, I was talking in general. I wasn't talking about you." I was like, "But it looked like it because I just did this video, and you're saying people calling Cenk a sellout, and you're defending him, and you're throwing people who said that under the bus, and I'm one of those people." So we squashed it. He said I was a friend. He loved my work. He never would have came on my channel otherwise. He said he was a friend of H.A. Goodman's. He liked H.A. He also had interviewed H.A. a couple of times and thought he was a great progressive. So here we keep going. So there's I know it's taken a while. Let me get to it. So that's a little. People have to know the context because people think that I just, people think I just jumped out the gym, Michael. So I want them to know. So a few months later. Another gentleman it's a TYT Network. It's a channel on YouTube. It's a small channel by a guy named Jeff. I don't know his last name. He made a video. He had a video roundtable with a couple of other people, and he was trashing HA and I. He said that we were clickbait. He said we were fraudulent. He said that we were just playing on fears and the whole stuff, all this stuff. So we countered him. We came back at him. Someone, I think the new progressive voice joined in. So I'm just laying the groundwork. This is one time I was attacked, and I didn't make a video. I did nothing. I talked to Jordan privately. The second time I did respond, but responded to the person who did it. And I was told by people within the TYT network that this guy, Jeff, he's not truly TYT. We like you, Tim. We watch your stuff. Um, please ignore him. Don't take it personal. Forget that guy. So it happened again, Michael. It happened again. So I did a video. I brought on Jared Beck, which is the attorney in the DNC fraud lawsuit, and we had an interview. We talked about many things, and one of the things we talked about was the TYT episode, the panel, where Michael Shore, John Iadarola, and another gentleman, I don't know his name, they were slamming the idea of the class action lawsuit. They were saying things like donations are donations, you shouldn't expect your donations back, and that there was no way that this lawsuit was going to be upheld. It was a waste of time, basically. I'm paraphrasing a lot of that stuff, but it was negative. It was negative, and the donation part, that part is factual. You can look that up. So, guys, so after all of that, Jared Beck, he slammed him. I never made a video about the lawsuit. I didn't have a chance because Jared Beck, I felt the prime person to ask what he thought. So he slammed TYT in a live stream, not edited, on YouTube. He says, hey, yeah, I saw the video. This is what I think. And we just talked about the value of this lawsuit, how important it is to our democracy. The next day, Jordan, while I'm doing the show with Ericael Blas of the Progressive Independent Party, I get notified, just like someone just called me now, and they say Jordan's on Facebook Live and he's bashing you, HA, and Nico House. And a lot has transpired since then, but I was totally blindsided. Jordan, I considered a friend. In fact, and I think part of that, one piece I missed was after I had the Jared Beck interview, H.A. Goodman made a video using Zach Haller's article, which Zach Haller published on his Counterpropa website about the DNC fraud lawsuit. So what seems to be tying all this together, Michael, is the DNC fraud lawsuit. And it is also sort of seems like based on these three incidents, I sort of a disdain for really truly independent media or small guy independent media from TYT. And I think that video by H.A. Goodman is just my guess that they didn't like that. And because Jordan cited it in his video, and he mentioned my name 3 or 4 times, maybe more. And then he says he didn't mean me, he meant Nico, who he also mentioned in the same video, said he got me mixed up. So this has been a lot of drama, and that's where we are today.
And I think it's really unfortunate. And I think you brought up a trend that TYT does where you said starting in April that they punch left. They brand themselves as this championing progressive media, but when you do that and you engage in the same attacks that mainstream media does in attacking and denigrating, whether it's burning your bust or people who voted for Jill Stein or those Never Hillary people, how are you any different? And you can do that and you can endorse Hillary or say, I think everything going on, I think you should vote for Hillary. I didn't, but I mean that's one thing. But when you transform that into attacking those who don't, I think that's why a lot of people are upset at them right now. And I think even starting in April after the New York Democratic primaries, where you kind of throw in the towel for Bernie, I think it pissed a lot of people off, and you keep going on about that. And I think a part of it is you are some of their biggest competition because you are you're the actual independent media. You don't have this huge platform and all these resources to make it look like any other TV outlet. So I think that's really unfortunate that they've stooped to that level, especially with this DNC lawsuit, because as Sanders supporters, we're emotionally invested in this lawsuit. This is our vindication. It's really like one of our last ditch efforts to have that the Democratic primaries were rigged against Bernie Sanders, for the Democratic Party to have to stare that in the face and own up to it, and to really expose and bring to light everything that went on, and how Bernie Sanders supporters as individuals and through a lot of tactics, the Bernie Bros narrative, the whitewashing of the campaign, how independent voters were, screwed out of a lot of the state primary races, what happened in Nevada, the media blackout, even this lawsuit, it still has a media blackout. Even TYT, they didn't start covering it until after the hearing when, Jared Beck started tweeting at the Young Turks people, why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you covering this? Because, not a lot of people know that the last time something happened with this lawsuit was in October. So it was deliberated that was the last court hearing on it. And the judge would say, I'll, give you guys my decision on the motion to dismiss later. And it took till April for that hearing to was announced April 10th. And then April 25th or 26th, they had the hearing. No one was really talking about it. No one was writing about it. I wrote an article about the hearing itself the day before it came out, and then I had Jared on Wednesday. And my experience with it, with what you guys have experienced, is during that interview, and I talked with Jared, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just to try to figure out what happened with the hearing. And I updated my first article with a quote, and he said that the transcripts from the hearing should be released on Friday, and anyone can request court transcripts. Every federal court has an official court reporter. They have it on the transcripts. It was like Francine Salopek was the person who wrote the transcripts initially. So those were released Friday. And Jam Pack and the DNC fraud lawsuit, they tweeted that out. Here are the documents. Here's the transcript. It was 100 pages long, but there was maybe like 50 words on each page, because just to make it eligible. And so you had people, even before that, you had Nico and you had other people who were actually at the hearing, and reported on what was talked about, what was discussed, all of the key points. And, many of them were arguments that the DNC attorneys said earlier in earlier hearings in September, August, and October of last year, where they claim that the neutrality is a political promise. And they also claimed that Sanders supporters knew the primary was rigged, and they actually researched Sanders supporters' Facebook profiles and said this guy donated to Bernie, but a week before he donated, he said Debbie Wasserman Schultz is cheating or something like that. So that was their ridiculous arguments. So you saw more of that in the transcript when it was released. And a lot of Sanders supporters, they were aggregating information on the transcripts. Screenshots were going on. They had a hashtag DNC fraud lawsuit. And then, I was around. I wrote an article Friday to be published, sent it to my editors, but I didn't hear anything back from them on that one till Sunday, unfortunately, and they put it up Monday. But I cited the original source. So Saturday morning, I get in my email a press release that TYT says, exclusive, Jordan Sheridan obtained documents. And I'm like, my eyes just roll in the back of my head. Like, are you fucking kidding me? This is not what exclusive means, and you didn't obtain documents at all. You didn't, and he doesn't cite the original source. He doesn't cite, the whole transcript can be seen on Jampack, or he doesn't hyperlink it. So he, deceptively, to his supporters, makes it seem as though he exclusively obtained the transcripts, and it was like, here are some snapshots of it, and puts it up on a Facebook post so he can declare, I was the first to find it, and which isn't true at all. And it's an arbitrary thing, because this was, other people did the work so this information could be put out to begin with. And I've talked to two university journalism professors and a New York Times editor that said, you only have to attribute the original source. This is ridiculous. So he's being petty and dramatic. So my article goes up Monday morning. Then and I get a message from him asking for attribution, and I just ignore it.
Wow.
So and what's funny is the first time he talked to me through Twitter DM, obviously I knew who he was, and I've been writing about Bernie since the primaries began. My first article for the Observer was July 2015, and I compared Bernie to some things that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and JFK Jr. have said, because we haven't seen a Democrat really talk about poverty in the way that Bernie did for decades. So the first time we spoke, I had written a WikiLeaks article. There was an email that came out that Donna Brazile tipped off the Clinton campaign to Bernie Sanders. It was like a social media campaign, and it had like their flyer of what they did. And so I wrote, "Breaking DNC chief tips off Sanders info to Clinton campaign." And that did really well. But Jordan has touted that he was the first to find the DNC debate question that Donna Brazile tipped off to CNN. So he asks me for attribution, thinking that I wrote about that email when I wrote about a different email. And I thought it was really weird to begin with, not only because I wrote about something different, but that these were, released by WikiLeaks. They're the journalist outlet. And, all you have to do is go to Podesta Emails 3 or Podesta Emails 4, and, you have Twitter users tweeting out screenshots and emails. Some are, or, there's nothing really there. Some are, a big deal. And that the information is getting aggregated that way. So I thought it was weird that he was touting, I was the first to break this. It's like, that doesn't make much sense, but okay.
Hey, excuse me, Michael. I was the first person in my household to watch the last episode of The Walking Dead, right? But I it was already out, right? You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Yeah. I caught this first. I saw Get Out. I didn't break it. Like the people that made it broke it. And
if you're the first reporter to get out, being first shouldn't be the issue. The content and being associated with it, so that when people search it or people see it, your reporting on that issue gets seen most, and it gets seen first. That's the thing, not giving yourself a first place trophy. So I ignored it, and then I ignored the message, and then I think later that day, CNN's Jake Tapper tweeted out the article. And that set off Jordan on a little tantrum, citing Observer didn't attribute me, Jake Tapper didn't attribute me, which I don't. Yeah. Neither one. Why would you put up something on Facebook that everyone else was posting the day before? And secondly, it was passive aggressive. So and it really was really just attacking my article. So he didn't say anything by name, but he was really impugning that article. And then he put something up on Medium the next day. And I mean, this is part from what I've spoken with a lot of people with Truth Against the Machine and a lot of things going on. This isn't my case is an anomaly. I was obviously later in the week he did have that weird crazy rant on Facebook about you, Tim Black, and just punching left and claiming all you guys are hucksters, which is ridiculous. You guys are the opposite of hucksters. You are independent media. Right. The sensationalists and the hucksters are the ones who obsessed over Trump in the mainstream media, gave him $2 billion, and really contributed to the shitstorm that we're in today. So they're really punching the wrong way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those claims, Michael, let me just say, there was something I wanted to say about, you said, we need a moral victory, looking for that, Bernie Sanders supporters. It's not just a moral victory that I'm looking for, man. Some of us are looking for money. You know, um, I know a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who wrote me who were homeless, who gave up jobs to go support Bernie Sanders, to go canvass across the country to follow it. Just like you follow the Grateful Dead or a big rock band, they were following Bernie Sanders from state to state, helping where they could. People lost families. They lost members of their family who passed away while they were out campaigning for Bernie Sanders because people believed that this opportunity was a once in a lifetime to change our democracy, to change our country, not just for the United States, not just for the folks in the United States, but for people all across the world, for the environment, for the longevity of our planet. Like people, like I want everyone watching to realize it's not just about me, it's not about Michael. This is about the freaking story. And as condescending and snide as Jordan comes off, and he talks pretentious as if he's the only journalist on the planet, you would think he would have that same feeling. So that he would be about the people, about the story. Everything I do is about the people. And if I was out here to make money, I definitely wouldn't have supported Jill Stein, because all the money was about dogging Trump or supporting Hillary. And instead of doing that, I had on Margaret Flowers, I had on Najamu Baraka, I had on Jill Stein, I had on a number of Green Party members like Arn Coney, people that couldn't pull views at all. So all of this was, that's why I'm so, I would say, still upset, more than upset. I'm so still disgusted about all of this. I don't care who breaks a story. Neither does the general public. I understand amongst journalists it's important, but we're missing the point when we focus on that. We're not focusing on all the people who should be the reason for you to break the story. So I just wanted to interject that.
No, by all means, and it's just unfortunate because it's really the people that these stories are coming from. Bernie Sanders' campaign inspired a lot of people to get involved, to really disenfranchise from the system, and those the stories come from those people. And their experiences, and they're going to these events, and whether live streaming it or discovering things that are being completely ignored by the mainstream media, often deliberately. So you can't cover progressives without having connections to those Sanders supporters that aggregate information online in different Bernie groups, in different progressive outlets and pages, and things of that nature. That to attack all that whole grassroots infrastructure is disgraceful, and that's what I think is part of the problem that you've discussed, and that why we're talking about this.
Absolutely, man. And I just want to mention that Nico House, he came on my show when most people didn't know who he was. This was over a year ago, to talk about these issues, and that's who introduced me to what was going on in North Carolina, and then what he felt was the smoking gun and within the Hillary Clinton campaign, how it infiltrated Bernie Sanders' campaign. I was sitting there riveted. I don't ever want to suggest that I was on the ground there and I that I got this information firsthand. No, I don't have to break a story. I can bring on Michael. I can bring on Nico. I can bring on you. And I do. So it's not, to me, I think this, but I understand people want credit. And definitely it matters if you break a story. If you're out and you're at a place, you put yourself in harm's way, you're up, you're sleeping in your car trying to get a story, or you're driving across the country, or you move across the country to cover something. Yeah, I understand you want a credit. You should get credit. Credit is due. But if you're sitting on your butt behind a computer and you're just pulling something out of WikiLeaks dresser drawer, or virtual dresser drawer, or virtual library, dude, then I don't even know how you claim that, and then try to claim the high road by knock H.A. Goodman, Tim Black, and Nico House when you do that type of activity. You understand that doesn't line up. You can't talk down your nose to me. So I know it's, I just don't agree with it at all, brother. And I have no way to know, what you're telling me, I accept it. I had someone call my show yesterday and tell me, and this is an allegation, they called my show on Friday. I have the Freedom Friday show, Michael. Anybody could call in. You could call in. and you get 5 minutes to talk about whatever you want. And people calling in randomly telling me at Standing Rock, they allege that Jordan Sheridan took footage from other people who were shooting footage and then published it as his own. That's what I was told, and this is the first I heard of it. These are allegations, and I'm reporting it to you as allegations, but I didn't tell them to tell me that. And they said it live on the air, and that video will be published soon.
Yeah, so I've talked to other people where they're like, because I was initially, I have like 6,000 followers, I have, a few thousand followers. I'm not really known for doing the videos. I'm known for writing articles. I write like 10 articles a week. So I don't have, I'm small compared to, the following is small compared to what Jordan has. So I didn't want to like tweet back at him because his followers are gonna. I didn't want to dramatize it any further or lend credence to it, but. Then Progressive Army asked if I wanted to contribute to that article about it, which would be what I experienced and the whole Michael Schur incident at the Young Turks. And initially I was, up in the air, like, should I or shouldn't I? And they added a couple people to the article, and it went up yesterday. And I know some people have seen it and it's gotten around, but everything I need to say, I explained, my experience in that fairly well. And
I haven't seen the article, and I was unaware, but I am a friend of Michael Graham, and he has been retweeting some stuff. We haven't talked about this, but I'm on very good terms with Progressive Army. So, as far as I know, they do reputable work.
Yeah, so they're good people, and I think it's a complaint that a lot of the writers there have experienced, where they're doing the grassroots, they're working in smaller outlets like that, and on social media trying to get these progressive issues, and a lot of times you have TYT either appropriate stories as their own, or they're trying to monopolize the left, and then they they're trying to monopolize the left, and getting all these big journalists with big Twitter followers and trying to solicit donations through that medium, and people should be asking questions: where are those donations going to? If you have $2 million donated, and you hired 13 people, or it took $500,000 to hire 2 journalists, the first 2, how are those funds being used? People, those are questions that should be asked.
Yeah, I think they should be asked. I do want to say one thing, as I opened my mouth and I talked about Progressive Army. I was in a conversation with Debbie Lusignan earlier today, and she relayed some stuff to me about Progressive Army that I kind of want to look into regards some articles they wrote that was something about the Justice Democrats. So that's a sideline issue. But since I mentioned it, I just want Debbie, if she's watching, to know I will look into that. And if I find that they were, that there was some problems or whatever, I'll voice my opinion. But Michael, man, you're a writer, you're a journalist, you spend your time plugging away 10 articles a week. That's a lot of work. And as far as so no one can take away your credibility, man. And I'll definitely share more of your stuff. You got a hotline to me, and I'll do my best to get it out. But I'll say this, it's a shame that we have these problems, but I think that TYT has become a bully, frankly. And I think it's time for independent media like you, like the Real Progressives, like Debbie and her crew, Debbie and Claudia, all of us, Lee Camp, all of us, to kind of band together and fight back against this. Because if they can do this to you, and it doesn't sound warranted at all, they can do this to anyone. And it's our job to stand up. And if they like it or not, they've become the establishment on the left for independent media.
And that could easily happen. And that's why people are starting to get a little wary about their PACs and how the donations are being used, because it's not, the Bernie Sanders campaign was, built upon disavowing PACs and super PACs, and trying to be as transparent as possible with how money is being used, and really depending on grassroots donations and grassroots efforts. So, but that can easily be exploited, and
it should be easily investigated, right? They should be transparent, which is something Jen talks about. And it doesn't mean that they never did any good stuff, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't,
I
you know what I'm
like
saying?
Jimmy stuff. I mean, they're obviously, it's not to impugn their reporting whatsoever. It's just, when they're, they are the bigger people, they have the bigger following. So when they're engaging specific trolls on Twitter to try to create some narrative, or doing live streams, that's misconcerning. Like you saw, Sen and a few others were tweeting, yesterday and today that because now we're getting stuff from Never Hillary people attacking us, calling us sellouts, like. And then when some person compliments them, they'll like retweet it as like, oh yeah, they're right. It's petty, especially coming from the bigger people. Why are you punching down? What do you get out of punching down other than suppressing independent media's growth? And
I'm sorry, Michael. I feel that it's strategic. I don't think this is an accident, brother. I think that they are here to push people to the Democratic Party, and they're here to do the bidding of the establishment, which is the DNC. I strongly believe that. They are MSNBC light. I don't bite my tongue when I say that. I want them to know that if they're watching. And it's not good. It's not cool. And we have to fight back against the way that they're sheepdogging us right now. We have to do that, because if we don't, I just did a video, in fact, just before meeting up for this interview, about Hillary Clinton running in 2020. And if this lawsuit doesn't go through, if independent media cannot undergird progressive candidates and give them exposure, because they're not going to bring them on TYT. So we have to build our platforms up, not just for self-ego. People have been saying, Michael, that this is about ego. It's not about ego. I want to be able to, I bring in candidates who run in small districts all across this country, nowhere near me with no following, to do that, to give them exposure. It's not for me. It does not help me to bring in somebody running in the 4th district of Kentucky or wherever, of Massachusetts. It helps them. That's why I do it. And if we don't do that and we don't develop these platforms, Michael, they'll never have a chance in a rigged primary system where they are able to favor whatever candidates they choose who maintain the status quo. So, you wouldn't believe the attacks I get for responding to an attack. It's the craziest thing. I'm doing videos. I'm interviewing Erica. I'm trying to give her exposure. She's saying that women who start movements are having problems getting exposure from a male-dominated landscape. And meanwhile, Jordan's bashing me. I find out about it. I respond. And it's like, well, he said he's sorry, Tim. Yeah, but after his video's been seen by 30,000 people, now he puts a little disclaimer in the description. He didn't take the video down.
No,
it's still being. No, I'm telling you, right. It's still being shared, and they want me to just walk it off. They want me to walk it off. Something I spent 4 years building. He gets to bash it and say whatever, and say, "Oh well, I had you mixed up with another person. My bad, homie." No, that's not good enough. No, and now I'm the bad guy because I won't turn the other cheek. I turned the cheek last year. I somewhat turned the cheek. I would say I turned the cheek on TYT politics when they did the next smear tactic. Well, I'm not turning the other cheeks. You understand? Because I sit on those. I don't turn those other cheeks. I got no more cheeks that I'm willing to turn. And now it's war. Now I'm going to fight. And if I feel like I have to fight, AJ has to fight, Nico has to fight, you have to fight, because there are going to be other journalists coming behind us that should not have to take this on. We should have to take it on because it's happening now. And it's just the same way I see our politics. I see that right here, right now. So we have to stand up, and it's not about demonizing them. We should hold them accountable, and they should not be able to punch down. I agree with you 100%.
With that, being said, I want to thank you, Tim, for coming on and telling your side of the story. and giving me an opportunity to vent a little bit.
I just want to get it out, man. Look, if you could do me a favor, let people know to find me on TimBlackTV.com and find me on YouTube, man, and call up to Freedom Friday. Like I said, any of your viewers are welcome to call up to the show Tuesdays or Fridays and grab the mic and you say what's on your mind.
All right. Well, thanks again, Tim, for taking time out of your weekend to come on.
You got it, brother. Later.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'll be back Wednesday at 8 p.m. Good night.